Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is Daily Drop number 161. Netflix is producing a docuseries that is going to cover the Jeffrey Epstein case using the book by James Patterson, Jeffrey Epstein, Filthy Rich, as its source material. Now, this documentary is also going to have several interviews with survivors of Jeffrey Epstein, including Virginia Roberts. And according to Virginia, the Netflix staff and the team treated the survivors very well during their interview process and during the production of this docuseries. And finally, they're having a large platform, meaning when I say they, I mean the survivors, are having a large platform to tell their story directly to the people. Because we know that the legacy media, for the most part, is not a partner here. We know that the legacy media has its own reasons for wanting this story to go away. So it's nice to see Netflix stepping up and providing a platform for these ladies to tell their story. And I think it's going to be pretty good considering the source material from the book was fantastic. If you haven't read the book, I highly suggest you get out there and read it. Again, the book is called Jeffrey Epstein, Filthy Rich, and James Patterson is the author. It's a lot of explosive stuff in that book. So if they're going to keep to that source material, which I'm sure Netflix is going to, and then add a little bit more context around the stuff inside of that book by adding interviews with the survivors, I think we're going to have a fantastic documentary on our hands, folks. So let's jump into the article and see what the New York Post has to say. Prince Andrew accuser Virginia Roberts to be part of Netflix new Jeffrey Epstein docu-series. This article was written by Lee Brown, and it is from the New York Post. Prince Andrew accuser Virginia Roberts is speaking out again as part of a new Netflix docu-series into Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking ring, she has confirmed. And it's always good when we hear any of these survivors come out and add some context to the story. It's always good when we can hear directly from the gals who were, directly affected by Jeffrey Epstein's trafficking ring and by those who were working with him to make sure that it was kept in the dark. It's nice, we hear from secondhand sources, and of course that's important as well, but to hear from the people who have directly been impacted by this, it's a lot more powerful. So I'm glad that Netflix is adding that along with the information from the Filthy Rich book, because like I said, in that book it's just explosive. It explores from the very beginning, from the first complaint in Palm Beach against Jeffrey Epstein, and it goes like a tsunami from there. All sorts of information and all sorts of things that'll make your jaw drop. The streaming service said on Twitter Friday that it would be airing Jeffrey Epstein, Filthy Rich, based on the James Patterson book. And again, I can't recommend the book enough. If you have not purchased it yet or you have not read it yet, I highly suggest you do, especially before watching the documentary. The series exposes a horrifying story of relentless manipulation and sex trafficking, Netflix said on its See What's Next account. Epstein survivors serve as the series' preeminent voices, providing powerful testimonials about their experiences and inspiration in their resilience. That's awesome. I love to read that in the press brief. A little bit of good news, right? So it looks like Netflix is going to be a serious platform for these ladies to tell their story. And we know the reach Netflix has. We know that everybody pretty much watches Netflix, and when you have one of these real crime docuseries on Netflix, it ends up being a huge hit most times, even when the content is nowhere near as explosive as the content inside of this book. Roberts, whose accusations against the disgraced Duke of York were central in him being dumped from royal duties, soon confirmed that she had been interviewed for the series. The Netflix team were wonderful to me and my husband, she wrote on Twitter, saying the series was looking to tell the world the truth of what went on behind closed doors. I hope the message reaches the voiceless and helps give them a voice, and I hope the message is clear to anyone who thinks again, Geoffrey Long, one of the most outspoken accusers against Epstein, claims the convicted pedophile forced her to have sex with Andrew 3 times, starting in London in 2001 when she was 17. And it's important. It's important that this message gets out there. There's so many people who still don't know this story. I come into contact with people a lot of times in my life, and we discuss, my podcast, and they don't even understand the true story behind Jeffrey Epstein. They only understand the little bit of the narrative that has been played out on the news, right? This hasn't garnered as much attention as it should, and there should be exposés on all of these people involved: Glenn Dubin, Les Wexner, the Core Four. These should be 35, 40-minute pieces on the news, and it's not. So it's important that Netflix is filling the void here. It's very important. The royal has always strenuously denied her accusations, but his disastrous attempts to distance himself from the escalating scandal during a BBC interview last year backfired and saw him dumped from royal duties. And not only that, it set up a pattern, it set up a public pattern where we can refer back and say, look, this man is a liar. He lied about helping authorities. He lied about ever meeting Virginia Roberts. What else is he lying about? Meanwhile, Virginia Roberts has been very consistent with her story from the very beginning. She has been very consistent with the truth from the very beginning. And I've said it a million times at this point. Everything that she has said has been credible. Everything has been vetted. There has been other witnesses. We have flight logs. We have pictures. We have pilots reporting that they were together. We have Mr. Scully reporting that they were together. So, look, there's a lot of evidence pointing at Prince Andrew being a liar at this point, and him denying the investigators time to sit down with him is just another part of the pattern of his obvious obfuscation and lying when it comes to this matter especially. He long stood accused of refusing to cooperate with an FBI investigation into Epstein's inner circle and has reportedly been forming a powerful legal team to help protect him. There appears to have been a recent breakthrough, however, with U.S. authorities saying Friday that there has been communication between both legal teams. And again, I don't even know what that means at this point. There's communication between both legal teams. All right, well, that's good. That's very good. What sort of communication? What have they proposed? Has Andrew's legal team proposed to maybe have him be depositioned or questioned via in writing so he can answer in written form? What are the parameters that they're going back and forth about? What are they talking about? What are the issues? So hopefully we'll get some more context with that as the story matures a little and we find out more. But I'm really happy to see that Netflix is stepping up here, and I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with the Netflix docuseries, Making a Murderer. They've had several other ones, the one about Madeleine McCann, and I'm sure I'm missing some here, folks, but they do a really good job, and that's my point. The docuseries that you see on Netflix are usually very, very well done. And then I doubt most of them have the core material to borrow from that this one has with Filthy Rich, because like I said, the book was awesome. And I knew right away when I was reading that book that eventually we'd see it in some sort of documentary form. I never thought it would be a docuseries, though. I figured it would be more like something that maybe would come out on HBO as like an hour-and-a-half documentary, kind of like the one about Theranos. I thought maybe something like that would occur, but as a docuseries, I'm guessing maybe 6 parts, you would think, probably. That's usually what you get from a docuseries, kind of like McMillions on HBO. I'm guessing something like that. But I know that the story is going to shock a lot of people who maybe haven't really followed the case. Once they start seeing the pattern that was formed by Jeffrey Epstein all of these years ago, and these little girls from Palm Beach that were, wrapped up into this whole entire fiasco, I think you're going to see a lot of people dig for even more information, and even more people than now being outraged and demanding justice. And I hope that's what occurs. So I think that'll be a good way to introduce people who aren't familiar to the case as well. So if you have like some friends or family who maybe really haven't followed the case, this will be a good way in a format that people are interested in, and a 6-part documentary format. People love that kind of thing, and true crime especially. So maybe people that haven't sought out podcasts or other alternate media types to get information about the Jeffrey Epstein case, well, maybe this will introduce them, and this will be their vehicle to researching more about what went on, and so more people can understand that this took place at the highest levels, and the way the Justice Department has handled it from the very beginning has been suspect at best. I think the more people that understand that, the more people will demand that the core four and the other co-conspirators are brought to justice. And at the end of the day, I believe that's what all of us want, right? Anybody who's invested in this case at this point, anybody who is following this case at this point, anybody who is outraged by this case just wants justice, just wants to see the proper people pay the price for what they did and for their role within the Jeffrey Epstein trafficking ring. So this Netflix series is a good way for that to all occur, in my opinion, and I think it's going to be a fantastic watch. So I'm really looking forward to it, and I'll keep my eye on it, obviously, and we'll do updates as it gets closer to premiere. We'll update a little bit more if there's, more information, more trailers, etc., and we'll discuss that as well. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. If you'd like to find me on Twitter, you can do that at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All right, everybody, I will be back tomorrow with our usual, and we will have the second episode of the Core 4 series, and this episode will deal with Sarah Kellen Vickers. I just put the finishing touches on it earlier this afternoon, and it'll be ready to be recorded tomorrow at some point. So you have that to look forward to, at least, folks. I hope everybody has a great night, and I will talk to everybody in the morning for the morning update.